The jungle was never silent, but tonight it was breathless. Beneath the canopy where shadows ruled and ancient winds whispered secrets, one name echoed in fear: Eleoramus. Not a myth, not a ghost, but a predator so silent the ground forgot to tremble beneath it. Hunters became prey, and legends were born from those who ran and never looked back. Deep in the forgotten lands where time had folded upon itself, a new terror stirred. It did not roar. It did not chase. It waited, and when it moved, the world changed. For when Eleoramus hunts, it is not just to kill, it is to claim. Shall I continue the full 6,000-word story now, following the STR? Year was 2147. Earth had changed. Continents had cracked and shifted under centuries of war and climate collapse. Oceans had swallowed cities. Forests had reclaimed metal bones of broken skyscrapers. The world no longer belonged to man alone. In a remote region once called Mongolia, now renamed Zone 9, a hidden rift had opened, a place untouched by satellites, unmapped by drones, feared by those who still dare to speak. Scientists believed it was a tear in the crust, a sinkhole, or a collapsed cave system, but those who entered never returned. Except one. Dr. Kira Voss was not like the others. A paleobiologist by training and a survivalist by necessity, she had studied extinction her whole life. Her parents, both field researchers, had vanished in Zone 9 when she was 10. Most said they were killed in a quake or lost in a collapse. Kira never believed that. Their last transmission had ended with one word: Eleoramus. Now, Kira stood at the edge of the overgrown abyss, clutching a worn field notebook, her father's name etched into the cover. She had come alone against warnings against science protocol and against fear. She had come not just to study the past, but to face it. The air was thick, and still the silence deeper than any cave she had ever known. Below lay the lost world, a land not frozen in time, but living in defiance of it. She had trained for this. She had waited her whole life. But nothing could prepare her for what lived inside the fracture of the earth. Not fossils, not data, not dreams. And the name that haunted her family for decades was no longer a mystery. It was a warning. The first 12 hours were uneventful. Kira descended into the sinkhole. Using a reinforced harness system she built herself. Her sensors detected high humidity, low radiation, and strange organic spores. The ecosystem below did not match any known biome. It was ancient but not dead, alive but not evolved in the same way as the surface. As she stepped off the last ledge and unhooked her gear, she was greeted by silence again. Trees stretched high and crooked, their bark layer like armor. Vines hung heavy, pulsing as if with breath. No birds. No insects. No wind. Kira set up a perimeter around her temporary camp near a small stream that glittered oddly beneath the dim light. Her first samples were rich in proteins not seen since the Cretaceous period. She tagged them and transmitted data through a delayed link to the surface relay. That would be the last signal she ever sent. At 0200 hours, the ground shook. A low vibration, not like tectonic movement, but a pattern like a drumbeat. Steady, controlled, near. Kira grabbed her scanner. The reading spiked. Massive heat signature approaching from the east quadrant. No footsteps. No flight. Just movement. She backed away from the stream toward the shelter when her foot sank into soft mud. Bones. Dozens of them. Stripped clean and still wet. She looked up. Across the stream in the thick trees, 2 eyes opened. Not glowing. Not human. Just cold. Focused. Old. And then it stepped forward, tall and slender, not as massive as a tyrannosaur, but built for speed and silence. Its head was narrow, its teeth jagged like broken glass. No feathers. No scales. Just dark skin marked with deep scars. It did not roar. It did not charge. It watched. Kira stood frozen, the scanner shaking in her hand. She whispered the word she had feared for years, but now understood. Eleoramus. The creature blinked once, then vanished into trees without a sound. And just like that, Kira realized she was not alone down here. She was being studied. Would you like me to continue with the rising action next? Excellent. Here is the rising action for the story Eleoramus. This section builds tension, introduces challenges, deepens a mystery, and expands the world as Kira explores and survives. Kira did not sleep. The eyes had not left her mind. She knew animal behavior. She had studied hundreds of predator species from every epoch, but Aeolormus had watched her not with hunger but intent. It had looked at her the way scientists study a specimen. The next morning she packed light and began to explore deeper. The trees bent into tunnels. Light filtered through strange leaves that glowed faintly. She found no birds, no mammals, no obvious food chain. It felt like the ecosystem had only one apex, and everything else lived in its shadow. By the second day, she located her first true anomaly. A clearing, not natural. Stone markers had been placed in geometric patterns. Bones were arranged along the edges with precision. Skulls all from the same species, small bipedal dinosaurs not yet cataloged, were lined into a circle. At the center, a single claw embedded in the ground pointed skyward. Not buried, displayed. Kira documented everything, took samples, photographed the symbols. The claw matched Aeolormus in proportion and curvature, but the way it was placed, it felt ritualistic. Then she found the camp, old and broken, covered in moss. But the insignia was clear, Earth Restoration Corps, her parents' research team. Scattered notes lay half-soaked in mud. One page had survived. Subject observes. Does not feed. It controls. Coordinates. This is not a predator. It is something else. Kira felt her breath tighten. That night she heard them. Multiple sets of footsteps circling the perimeter. Not heavy. Not human. She lit a flare and caught glimpses. Slender forms darting between trees. She couldn't tell if they were stalking or guarding. One stepped into the light, briefly. Not Aeolormus. Smaller. Similar build. Eyes too bright. It tilted its head as if puzzled by her. Then it retreated. On the fourth day, Kira made contact. While climbing a narrow ridge to reach a cave system marked on her father's old map, she slipped. As she dangled from a loose root, she saw something move below. Aeolormus. It did not attack. It used its snout to nudge the rocks under her dangling body, positioning them, creating a slope. When she let go, she slid down, but did not fall. She stood and looked at it. The creature stared back. Then it turned and walked into the cave, not chasing her, leading her. Kira followed. Inside, the cavern walls pulsed with faint bioluminescence. Fossils of long-dead creatures lined the walls, but not buried, mounted, arranged. Some she could not identify. Others were ancient predators reassembled with disturbing precision. At the center of the cavern lay a skeleton. Human, worn field boots, a patch from the Earth Restoration Corps. Her father, his pack was there, his notebook, a recorder still half-functional. She played the last entry. It's not just survival, it's design. They are curating this world. Aeolormus is not a dinosaur. It's the architect. A shadow crossed the light. Aeolormus stood at the edge of the chamber unmoving. Kira stepped forward. She placed the recorder down and said aloud, "What are you?" It didn't respond. It didn't need to. It lowered its head slightly, then disappeared again into the dark tunnels. Now Kira knew this wasn't about hunting. This was about testing. She was inside something much larger than a nest. She was inside a living museum. One designed not by man, but by an intelligence that had evolved differently. An intelligence that remembered extinction, and had no intention of repeating it. The seventh day in Zone 9 began without sunlight. A storm had rolled in overnight. Thick clouds sealing the chasm from above. Kira's equipment had failed. Her comms were dead. Her food reserves nearly gone. But she no longer cared about escape. She had discovered something that would change everything. The deeper caves beneath the museum chamber stretched for miles. She mapped what she could, but one passage pulled her like gravity. Strange symbols had been etched into the walls. Not language as she knew it, but patterns, mathematical rhythms. Not chaotic, purposeful, like equations carved by claws. The tunnel opened into a dome, massive, hollow, alive. Light pulsed from bioluminescent veins in the walls. The floor was smooth, embedded with fossil fragments laid out in spirals. Suspended from the ceiling, hanging like relics, were the skeletons of apex species from every era, Raptors, rexes, even human remains. Not trophies, not decay, preserved, cataloged, curated. At the center of the dome stood a monolith, bone, stone, and something else. Technology not built, but grown. Kira approached it slowly. When she touched it, the structure responded. Her father's voice played from somewhere deep within. If you're hearing this, I was wrong. It's not here to kill us. It's here to remember us. But memory is not mercy. It chooses what to keep and what to erase. Kira backed away. Then it arrived. Aeolormus, not alone this time. 6 smaller creatures flanked it. Silent, sleek, coordinated. Not subordinates. Not offspring. Assistants. Kira stood frozen, facing them. The monolith pulsed again. A holographic field bloomed into view, a display of Earth's history, species rising and vanishing. Then it stopped on one image. Homo sapiens. Kira watched in horror as extinction markers appeared next to the image. Not predicted. Planned. Aeolormus stepped forward. Its gaze locked on hers. It projected new data. Environmental collapse. Genetic corruption. War. Overpopulation. It was not a predator. It was a judge. And it had begun its election. She screamed, "We can change." The monolith shimmered. The projections paused. Aeolormus tilted its head. Kira stepped forward. You're preserving life, but you're deciding what deserves to exist. That makes you know better than us. The moment stretched. Aeolormus looked to the others. They moved. Fast. They surrounded her. Not attacking. Scanning. Her memories flashed onto the monolith. Her life. Her failures. Her determination. Her knowledge. Her empathy. Then silence. Aeolormus stepped back, and the extinction marker next to Homo sapiens flickered. Paused. Not erased. Reviewed. Kira dropped to her knees. This was not the end. It was the trial, and she had just become the only voice Earth had left. The dome darkened as the monolith dimmed. The projection faded into the air like dust. Kira remained kneeling as the circle of watchers slowly stepped back. Aeolormus did not leave. It stood unmoving, eyes fixed on her, as if weighing her presence in some unseen scale. The extinction marker no longer blinked. It had stopped entirely. Kira breathed shallowly, unable to grasp whether she had won something or only delayed the inevitable. The cave pulsed with light again, but softer now. Warm. The wall beside the monolith shifted and opened, revealing a new passage, smooth and carved by intelligent design. A choice was being offered. Kira stood. She stepped inside. This tunnel led into a chamber unlike the rest. Its floor was covered in root-like fibers pulsing with data. Along the walls were floating stones marked with DNA sequences. Human, animal, plant. She saw her father's signature embedded in one, his genome preserved. His body may have died, but he had been stored. Remembered. Aeolormus entered behind her. Its presence no longer felt threatening. It felt ancient, measured. It moved to one of the floating stones and tapped it gently with its snout. The stone spun and revealed Earth's future. Projections stretching centuries ahead. Climate recovery. Rebirth of forests. Cities turned to moss-covered ruins. Life returning in a new form. Humans were not absent from the timeline, but they were altered. Smaller populations. Simpler tech. Reintegrated with nature. Kira realized that extinction was not always death. Sometimes it was transformation. She looked at Aeolormus and said, "You're not destroying us. You're editing us." Aeolormus lowered its head slightly. Then it turned and left. Kira remained in the chamber, studying the floating stone for hours. Her mind raced with possibilities. She could take this knowledge back to the surface, warn others, or she could stay, learn, become part of the archive. She found a terminal embedded in the roots. Primitive but functional. It responded to her thoughts, not her touch. She uploaded her findings, recorded a message for the world above. Her voice echoed in the chamber. If you find this, know that we are not alone in shaping the planet. We are being watched and judged, but maybe we are still worth saving. The chamber closed behind her. Above ground the storm cleared. Satellites once blind to Zone 9 flickered back to life. One image beamed through, a single pulse from Kira's transmitter. Then silence. But the signal had changed. It carried a signature not of Earth origin. Something had replied. On the surface, no one knew what had truly happened in Zone 9. Kira's signal was received but not understood. The data it carried was fragmented, encrypted in alien sequences. Governments dismissed it. Academics debated it. Conspiracy forums lit up. But deep within the Earth, something was changing. Kira remained below. She was not a prisoner. She was a witness. Aelioramus and its silent network continued their work, cataloging, preserving, rewriting. Not just fossils now. Ideas. Cultures. Warnings. They had once survived extinction. Now they were preventing another. Kira had become a curator. In a chamber lit by living light, she translated between species. Human knowledge filtered through her hands. Mistakes and triumphs both stored. Nothing erased. Nothing glorified. Only truth. Every now and then, she would return to the dome where it all began. Aelioramus would be there, watching. It never spoke, but over time, Kira understood it. Not with language. With presence. With silence. She often wondered, was it created by something older? Was it the last of its kind? Or the first of a new one? She never got the answer, but she knew what mattered. Aelioramus was not a destroyer. It was a memory, a guardian of patterns, a living balance. And now, it had chosen to keep humanity within an archive, not as rulers, but as one voice among many. Far above, Earth continued to breathe. Forests spread. Oceans cooled. The noise of industry slowed. Slowly, over years, change came, not forced, inspired. The stories told around future fires would not be of empires or machines, but of something older, a watcher in the dark, a judge in the roots, a creature that remembered what we were and chose to give us another chance. One name survived the collapse of maps and nations, Aelioramus, and in that name, the world was born again. In every age, the Earth selects its storytellers. Some roar, some rise, some remember. Aelioramus did not conquer through strength, but through silence, through watching, through choosing what deserved to echo into the future. We once believed survival was a right, but survival is a privilege earned through balance, not dominance, not destruction, understanding. When the time comes to be judged, it is not what we built that will save us, but what we chose to protect, to learn from, and to leave behind.